What do you want?
Hey, you talk to your best friend like that. It's rude. Okay, quick question for you.
Yeah.
On, I'm like 30 minutes behind or 20 minutes behind you covering this segment. Rob went on a tirade about, and I think you were dealing with this in a Twitter space, is something like, well, she's the vice president now, so why should we trust any promise that she makes? Because she's in office now, she could do it now. I'm curious what you make of how effective you think this would be, just flipping that around on them. You know, she's the vice president. She doesn't have any like real power. Donald Trump was president. Why didn't he do all his shit?
I ask that all the time. Yeah, we already had Donald Trump for 4 years. That's why I thought it was so funny that he still ran on Make America Great or Make America Great Again. Like, you were just president, bro. What do you mean Make America Great Again? You didn't get anything done in your 4 years. But they already have a cope. They have like a prepackaged cope. Remember, there's a prepackaged cope for everything. But their prepackaged answer was, well, when Trump was president the first time, he didn't know how bad the deep state was, and everybody was against him. That's why he didn't get anything done. But this time around, he'll be able to get things done because he knows that he's working against the deep state. Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's usually there. Yeah.
Oh, I thought they had something more creative than that, because to me, like I watched this Dylan Burns panel yesterday, and the chain smoker guy, that dude is fucking unhinged.
The
like,
top left dude?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he's
shouldn't
insane.
really be at any debate. It's kind of a waste of time, but yeah.
Yeah, he's just an absolute dick. But I've been hearing this thought terminating sentence all the time. Well, she's the vice president right now. If she's she's in power, she can make all this happen. She can reduce healthcare costs. She can reduce childcare costs. She can do all of it. And it's just like, well, let's just grant the premise that she has the power to do it now, but we could just easily, effortlessly flip that around on you. Donald Trump wasn't anybody's vice president. He was the president. He actually had full control of not just Congress for 2 years, but also a sympathetic Supreme Court. So you could easily make the case that Trump at his peak during his presidency had more of government, at least under his nominal control, than President Biden ever did. And yet he failed to repeal and replace Obamacare. He failed to build a wall. He failed to cap insulin at $35. He failed
to do infrastructure.
Right. Fail. So I just didn't know if you think that there was any utility in just like parking there and saying, okay, if that's the standard, then I need you to explain to me persuasively why your fucking cult leader failed so spectacularly. Like, even if you want to shit all over Kamala, by definition, objectively, your guy is still worse and less competent. Or they just hit you with the that cope you just said.
Yeah, it's. I mean, truly, you're just kind of looking for like the checkmate, whatever moves, because like none of this is done in good faith, right? Like no part of any of these arguments for Trump is done in good faith.
So
like how many times have you heard like the no wars talking point? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, no, I mean,
like
we're
Syria.
actually
I thought, like, remember, there were no wars under Trump, but he also eliminated ISIS. Like, what? There were no wars under Trump, but he bombed Syria's airport. There were no wars under Trump, but he still did all the drone strikes in Yemen. There were no what is it? Like, none of.
Well, I'm curious. So you're more of a foreign policy wonk than I am, but was the Afghanistan the only declared war that we were in? Like, what other declared wars are we in?
The thing is, I don't even know what it means for like a question. Did we even formally declare war on Afghanistan, or was that just did we do that under the authorization for use of military force that we still had left over from Iraq?
You know what? You're right.
I don't even know if there was like a formal war on Afghanistan declared. I don't know when was the last time.
No, you're right, because Congress would have to do it, and I don't remember a formal declaration.
Yeah, I don't think I could be wrong, but I think the authorization for using military force, didn't that come from the Gulf War in '91?
Yeah, I think that was the
so
genesis.
We didn't even really have a declared war under Bush, right?
Well, yeah.
So
no,
it's like,
right.
yeah,
because it was the war on terror. You don't declare war on terror.
Yeah.
What was
and we just don't like declare war anymore. That's not really how things go, especially because we're dealing with so many non-state actors now, right? The Taliban kind of is a non-state actor. You know, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. These are all non-state actors. And the biggest like military conflict probably in the past 20 years, excluding Ukraine and Russia, was probably the Syrian civil war. And there were no like formal wars declared there. So
quick Google Food tells me that the last formal declaration of war was World War II. So yeah. All right. So okay.
Maybe, yeah,
well then,
sure.
No, I mean that's what Senate.gov is saying according to my Google Food. But okay. Well then, take formal wars out of the equation.
Let's take formal wars out and let's look at big military strikes.
Right.
And I might be brain farting here, but have there been any under Biden? Because I know under Trump you
Would you
had
count the Houthi thing? Would you count that as a?
the you
Didn't
maybe
he
could
attack
count the
Houthi
Houthi
ships?
thing. Was that just
Yeah.
the U.S. or was that done with like UN approval?
I don't know if it's done with UN approval.
I don't remember if that was like NATO, UN, or just the U.S. That might have just been the U.S. I know that the English, I think, had like a carrier or some boat there.
Yeah.
But okay, so you've got the Yemen strike. Okay, under Trump,
Mm-hmm.
you had the Syrian airport was bombed. That was a big
Right.
strike.
He vaporized Soleimani.
Yes, yes, that's true. He did an assassination of Soleimani. By the way, I don't even disagree with either of those actions. But
Not necessarily. That like there's some sound. I mean,
But I
you
don't
could make
think. But
the
it's just.
argument that-
But if that's what we're gonna say, right? Like the idea that like Trump was involved in less war. Like what the fuck does that even mean? Yeah.
Right. The reason I'm asking is, okay, since we know now that Afghanistan was not a formal war, but that's one less major conflict that the United States is directly involved with under Biden, right? I mean, like she said something the other day, and it was apparently fact checked. Like the vice president said something like, "We have no troops deployed in active combat zones," or something to that effect. And apparently, it's like, yeah, but no. Like apparently, we have U.S. troops
In Syria, don't
that
we?
are. Yeah, that are in places where active combat may occur, but it's not been designated by the Department of Defense as like an active combat zone or an active war. So I think they're kind of like, playing fast and loose with the definitions there. But
All of
would
it is
be
like
fair-
fast and loose and like dumb and retarded and like yeah. Because I mean, there were three soldiers that died? I don't know if they were in southern Syria or if they were in northern Jordan. But remember there was the drone
Yeah.
strike that killed a couple military people. So yeah, it's all of these. The problem is like all of these terms are so amorphous and like political that it doesn't really mean anything. Like I didn't know if Trump was going to fight on this. Like no, I don't even know. Harris might know. I'm not sure. I know Hillary was very smart. I know Trump is a fucking retard. I really don't know how intelligent Harris is. But it was funny to me that Harris tried to take credit for Biden exiting Afghanistan. Technically,
should.
though, what? She should?
I think she should.
Oh, she could.
I
She
think,
could.
yeah.
But that was on Trump's timetable that he negotiated. But I don't think Trump wants to take credit for it because it'll sound like it was his fault that the 13 people died. But I don't think that Trump knows. I wish Harris would have asked him this. I feel very. I wish Harris campaign needs to reach out to me, and I'll give you like one or two killer questions, okay? And I'll pay your campaign all my money if I'm wrong, okay? I think there are some key questions you could ask Trump that he doesn't know. I think Donald Trump thinks that the Taliban killed those 13 American soldiers.
Yeah, instead
And
of
that's-
ISIS-K.
Yeah, and that's why he makes it such a huge fucking deal. I think he knows that. I'm sorry, I think he doesn't know that. And it would be very funny to hear him fuck that up on stage. But yeah, it's the whole like thing of like, what are we involved in wars or whatever the fuck is like retarded. I think is stupid.
But based on what you know, because again, you track both the Russia-Ukraine situation and the Gaza situation. As far as I know, like we don't have boots on the ground there, right? Like
In
there's
where?
no
In
in Ukraine or Gaza, right?
So-
like, we're not.
even this is a question that requires some amount of good faith. Who was I talking to recently about this? When somebody says boots on the ground, the good faith obvious interpretation of that is like a fighting force of soldiers.
Right.
Now in Ukraine and maybe in Israel, we might have like special ops there that help with training missions or training local police or something like that. We might have those people there, and there will be people. I think the one Russian paid Jackson Hinkle. He, I think, tried to use that in an argument against me, and maybe even Fuentes did, where they're like, oh, no, we actually do have troops in Ukraine. It's like, not really. Not how you would mean troops or boots on the ground. That's not true. But so I think we do have soldiers there, but they're not like active fighting forces. They're there for like training and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So it's fair to say that we are not involved in the hot war against Russia or Hamas.
No,
Like, we're
not only that, we're involved. My guess would be, and somebody with more broad foreign policy experience can check me here. We're probably involved in less military conflict today directly. I would think a lot less than we were.
Yeah, that was my question because to me, when I hear them say that there were no wars under Trump or we were less involved with war under Trump, I'm like, but are we though? Because the only de facto war that we were really involved with was my understanding was Afghanistan, and that actually we ended that on Biden's watch, not Trump.
A few. So I think Biden, was the one that officially pulled us out of and pulled the plug on the Saudi coalition in Yemen. I believe Biden ended that involvement completely. Like somebody can look this up or please check if somebody. I don't think we were involved in drone strikes or anything in Yemen anymore. I believe that's the case. Number one. And then number 2, we completely exited Afghanistan. And number 3, I don't think we're involved in any more combat operations at all, active combat operations in Syria, which we were under Trump. I don't know if those were still happening at the end of Trump's admin or not, though. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So then it sounds like it's a full on fucking lie.
It is, because people just look at the big hot wars right now, all of which Trump contributed to, which is also very frustrating, again, because people are very one-dimensional. So, for instance, one of the big inciting moments for the Great March of Return, the border riots, was the fact that the U.S. The U.S. Agreed to acknowledge the embassy moving to Jerusalem. That was like one of
Tel Aviv.
Yeah, that was a big inciting. From Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, yeah. That was a big inciting moment for the Palestinians. And then the Abraham Accords also stoked those flames a lot too, because the Palestinians continued to feel like, oh, fuck, we're getting left behind and ignored. Like, we got to do some shit. Shit is fucked. These are things that were happening under Kushner, under the Trump administration,
right,
that pushed towards October 7th, but he'll never get credit for that because it's not, the linkage is too complicated. And there's I always want to say cigar report. It's the something. It's not an officer.
Special Inspector General about
Yes.
you're talking about Afghanistan.
Yeah. That pullout deal was insane. I don't think I read that report fully. I think I skimmed it. I hope I skimmed it. Otherwise, Piso's going to be in here screaming 2 months later saying I lied about skimming it. But I'm pretty sure that report lays the blame for how catastrophic that withdrawal it was. I think almost completely at the foot of the Trump administration.
Well,
and I think part of the reason why was because I bring this up a lot, that the Afghanistan government wasn't involved in those negotiations. My understanding is that when the pullout started to happen, as the Taliban were starting to make their way through Afghanistan-controlled territory, they were literally showing up and saying like, oh, you guys shouldn't even be fighting here because this area has already been promised to us. That there were some Afghanistan soldiers that were like, we had no idea this is, and then the will to fight and everything just evaporated instantaneously. And Trump had already drawn down troops to historically low levels when the Biden admin came in. I don't know if it was you or somebody else that brought this up. Remember also, Trump wanted to pull everybody out of Afghanistan, even more than he already did before he left, and they said no to that. So yeah, like Biden was in a pretty fucked position at that point, and the Afghanistan government was also in a fucked position at that point. So all of these things, it sucks because this is the strategy, and it worked really well for Trump. He played it well to kick the can down the road, just like he did with some of his expiring tax cuts. And I hope it doesn't set the pace for, I'm never going to do anything permanent. I'm just going to do something, and I'm going to make it expire on the next term. And if I'm still president, I'll extend it so I get credit for it again. But if I'm not president, and it lapses under my the next person's administration, they can get blamed for something that they didn't technically even do, right? Like right now, is Kamala going to raise taxes? Or are they just going to expire? Or is it just going to be the Trump tax cuts expiring? Right? Do you see how bullshit that is?
No, 100%, especially based on how you spin it. The cigar report on Afghanistan, yeah. So you know, it was fair in the sense that, you know, it said in hindsight, you could make the case that, again, like President Biden closing down Bagram Air Base may, in hindsight, have been a mistake. But they talk about like how that was it was a sound decision, even if in hindsight it was a wrong decision, because we didn't have the troops there to maintain that base. And it was, you know, like 30 minutes or 60 minutes away from a major population center. Mm-hmm. So they would have had to move all the people they were trying to evacuate, you know, miles and miles and miles away to a base that they didn't have the troops to defend adequately in the first place. So like, even like that's a sound military decision. I mean, I'm not a military expert, but it's like, okay, if the choice is between fortification versus logistical convenience, and we'd have to surge troops in the first place, so you'd effectively be reinvading Afghanistan or at least violating the terms of the deal. Like the cigar report goes into detail, and it's like, hey, listen, you can make the case that Biden didn't handle this perfectly. You can also make the case that the State Department under Biden waited too long to declare, I think it's called a NEO, and I can't remember exactly what the acronym is, but it's like an emergency order. But again, even that, all of those decisions were based on sound logic. The State Department waited until the last possible minute to declare an emergency because they didn't want to undermine the Afghan government's legitimacy and basically say, hey, we're getting the fuck out of here. They were trying to hold out as long as possible. The single biggest reason, according to that report, that Afghanistan collapsed is precisely what you said, was the Doha Agreement. And I sent you a PDF file. It dropped a couple of days before, a day or two before that debate. So it was like Sunday or Monday. The House Republican Foreign Affairs Committee did a whole hearing, or they concluded, like a year's worth of investigations on the Afghanistan withdrawal. And they timed it to drop a day before the debate. And this is the Democrats' like rebuttal to their report. Mm-hmm. And
Just as
it
a
goes
quick,
into deep.
just as a
Go
quick
ahead.
thing, it's embarrassing to say this. I truly hope that it changes. I have considered more over the past like 2 months leaving this country more than I ever have in my entire life, which is very sad. If I hear something that starts with the term House Republicans, I'm thinking like Finkelstein. Like there is so much garbage that passes through the House Republican stuff. It's unreal. It's unbelievable.
Did you know?
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you know that they because they're in the majority, right? So they technically have the power in the House. They're so they can't get must pass bills past their own fucking coalition. Like like they're constantly fighting amongst themselves. But you know, one thing they did make the time for is they wanted to rename Dulles Airport after Trump, and they wanted to rename like the Gulf of Mexico or like nearshore waters near the Gulf of Mexico, like the Trump free zone ocean area or what. Like it's such cringe cultish bullshit that they make the time for. It's pretty pathetic. But the good news is I think we're favored to take back the House. But what's
Also,
interesting
that,
about
by the way, how's that impeachment going? Right, the one that Jim Jordan did, and they passed. They got the report out.
Yeah, so that's so fucking funny because they dropped this report. They're like, yes, President Biden committed impeachable offenses, but we're not going to recommend an impeachment vote.
Like,
because
do you
they
understand?
don't have the fucking numbers.
Lack of response. Like this is what I say again: lack of accountability, lack of responsibility. And people don't understand this. Okay, they're acting like a belligerent minority in the House,
Right.
and they're a majority.
Right.
That's insane. It's unbelievable. How do you lose your speaker seat? It's unbelievable. Do you have any idea how dysfunctional you have to be? Also, you know this, right? And this is even broader than this, right? Over the ACA stuff, okay? Vote. I don't want to say voting is done for show, but you don't call votes without knowing who's going to vote for what.
That
right?
was Nancy Pelosi's rule. She says you never, ever, ever bring a vote to the floor unless you would bet
Obviously,
your life.
and this
that
is
you
like
have the
just
numbers.
this is the government, right? Nobody's going to do this. You're not going to be like, okay, well, let's vote on this and see if this major legislation passes, right? McCain voting no on that ACA thing. What the fuck are you doing, Republican? Yeah, it's unreal to me that how incompetent they are, even when they are the majority party, and people they want to trust these guys to run the country. Are you fucking? You can't even run the fucking House. Remember, first example, history of the entire United States ever of a majority party losing their speaker seat.
Yeah, so that it took like 10 times to get McCarthy that position in the first place, exclusively because of his own party. He had Matt Gaetz and members of the Freedom Caucus cock-blocking him, and he couldn't get the votes. Remember, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I think it took like 10 to 13 times to finally get him the seat. Then, to your point, he loses it 8 weeks later or 8 months later. And by the way, do you remember, just reliving like fucking memory lane here, the cope that we got from centrists? I think it might have even been Sitch and Adam, that they were upset that
the Democrats wouldn't come and support and save.
Yeah,
bro.
Right.
There was a debate that I had a few days ago. Who was I debating? And I think I was trying to ask, give me one example, because it's always supposed to be, well, the Democrats need to compromise and make things right. The Democrats need to compromise. And I was like, can you give me one example of the fucking Republicans having to compromise? When have we ever said the Republicans need to compromise this ever? And I think, who was I debating, guys? Does anybody remember this? The only example that he could give when the Republicans had to compromise with themselves in order to get something done. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? You guys are so crazy. You're the only example that you can give me was Republicans compromising with themselves on something in order to.
It was the filibuster. It was Wick. I remember that.
Oh,
yeah.
was it? Yeah, it was Wick with the filibuster.
Yeah,
that was the only example he gave. Yeah, for the yeah. Oh my god. Sorry.
Yeah, Trump wanted to break the filibuster, and McConnell said no. And even that, just not to pick on Wick here, but just even that idea. So McConnell's primary objectives were to stack the federal judiciary, stack the courts, and tax cuts. He didn't need to break the filibuster there because all they needed was a simple majority. And this is how you know McConnell would absolutely break the filibuster if his priorities were on the line, because they changed Senate rules to make those three things happen. Yeah. So there's a rule in the Senate judiciary. It was called the blue slip, and it's existed for decades. It's not in the Constitution. It's one of those norms that's existed for both parties. So if Senator Bennell of Florida wants to disagrees with President Josiah's judicial nominee for his state, you can give a blue slip. Senator Bennell could say, hey, listen, Mr. President, I don't like this candidate. Find a different one. I'm giving my blue slip. And it was basically like a soft veto, and both parties respected it for years. Trump wins the presidency, Republicans win the Senate. The first thing they do is kill the blue slip rule, which means that no Democrat could block one of Trump's nominees in their state. Then, when Biden wins the presidency, the Democrats keep that rule, and this is for circuit judges, not district judges. And Republicans are bitching that the Democrats didn't restore the blue slip rule. They're like, wait a minute. I don't, I think it was Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. She's like, I don't like Biden's nominee for Tennessee. He's too liberal. And the Democrats, for the first time ever, were like, well, tough. You were the ones who got rid of this goddamn rule. We begged you not to do it. And now you want us to put it back because it's inconvenient to you. Fuck you. But the point is, they changed the rule to accommodate McConnell's wishes. Right. So what I'm saying is, you just know that it wasn't a principled stance McConnell had about the filibuster. If the filibuster would have gotten in the way of, here's another example: the Supreme Court. So the filibuster, he did a carve out. Mm-hmm. He nuked the filibuster for Supreme Court appointments. So my point is, like, that example was so shitty because McConnell has proven for his priorities, he is absolutely willing to kill the filibuster. And for some of the other priorities, the filibuster doesn't matter. Like, the filibuster wouldn't have helped Trump repeal the ACA because all he needed was a simple majority. That's why McCain was able to kill it, to your point. So I don't know. Like, it's not even a good example. It would be a bad example even if it were valid, because it's, to your point, Republicans fighting amongst themselves. But yeah, just a total asymmetry of expectation. And the Republicans, it's almost like they get away with not having to be a governing party. So, like, if they're in the minority, they don't have to help the majority govern. If they're in the majority, they don't have to help the minority govern. Democrats have been more responsible for legislation passing the House since Republicans took the majority. Like, if not for Democrats passing like these continuing resolutions, the government wouldn't be funded because there are enough Republicans voting against it. Like, that is how dysfunctional they are. And it's so frustrating because, to your point, they get rewarded for it. Like, they make the mess. Democrats either don't clean it up perfectly or quickly enough, mm-hmm. or whatever. And then they point to Democrats and say, they failed to clean up our mess. You should put us in a position to make a mess again. I can't square it. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't know if it has to be like a civics lesson or what, but it's very frustrating. Yeah, the accountability thing is a big thing I'm focused on now with media people and with government. It's just unreal. But the problem is the correction needs to be brutal. It can't be baby steps. I said, like, just with the last media coverage, somebody actually posted a cute little graph. I don't know if this is in my subreddit or somewhere else, but it was like, does this seem biased? And it was like a bar. It was just like a little bar chart. And one was like number of corrections for Trump and number of corrections for Kamala. And then they were like, well, does this seem biased? And then there was a second graph, and it was number of corrections for Trump next to number of incorrect things Trump said, and then number of corrections for Kamala next to incorrect things Kamala said. I was like, oh, well, okay, well, this would make more sense. Yeah. The Republicans are just like they're in fantasy land right now. Like, they're not real human beings to like negotiate with. They're just crazy obstructionists that under McConnell, for as much as I think he tried to obstruct the fuck out of Obama's presidency and played, party politics and all that, I think I think McConnell has a conservative vision for America that he wants at all costs. But now the problem is the tools that he's used to ramrod, these crazy conservative ideas are now being used for anti-American ideas, which is scary because the Republican constituency flipped on that very quickly, where they're like, oh, okay, well, we can do these anti-democratic things to get like Republican stuff passed, right? Well, we can do anti-democratic things to get the Republic destroyed. It's like, okay, well, yeah, it's very fucking annoying.
Well, and what's funny is McConnell, I don't know if I said this to you, but I said this to somebody, is like McConnell's almost like, Victor Frankenstein in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. He's like a victim of his own creation because, again, I want to make it clear, I don't think McConnell is a principled actor at all. I think, like, even when it comes to preserving the filibuster, it's purely because in order for him to do what he needed to do, he didn't need to break the filibuster. And when he did need to break the filibuster, like with passing Supreme Court nominees and stuff, he did, right? So anyone who thinks that he is a principled actor is a fucking idiot. But to your point, he also is not reckless, right? So he won't break a thing unless he really needs to break a thing to secure a political victory. Mm-hmm. And he's persona non grata in his own party. I mean, we've heard reports, we've seen examples of prominent Republican senators publicly shit-talking McConnell. Like Josh Hawley is a good example. The schmuck from Missouri, the one who on the J6 footage. Have you gotten to this point? The one who held his fist up to the rioters, and then they caught him on camera running down the hallway away from them. That asshole. Yeah, so he's like shit talking McConnell because McConnell is seen as insufficiently loyal to Trump. And I also don't know if you know this, but McConnell's going to serve out the rest of his term. But after the election in November, he's resigning from leadership. He's basically doing what Nancy Pelosi did and basically saying, "Fuck it, I'm not going to be the Republican leader anymore."
Wait,
So right now,
did Pelosi, is she actually, I thought she kept talking about it, but she hasn't actually yet.
no. She didn't resign from Congress. She resigned from the leadership. She's no longer part of the Democratic. She is not part of the Democratic leadership at all on paper. She of course still carries enormous influence because she's Nancy goddamn Pelosi, but she's not the minority whip or the minority vice whip or anything like that. She is just the representative from that one district in California. And so McConnell is a victim of his own making, I think, in a way by Trump. But I was going to ask you this too, because we haven't had a chance to talk about it. But the Supreme Court thing, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm happy where you are on Supreme Court reform and how aggressively you're pushing it. But I am curious. I do want to know, what was the thing that tipped you over in terms of, nah, fuck this, we need to revisit how we do this? Or maybe it wasn't one thing, I don't know, but like if there was a specific thing, I am curious.
I always say this. I don't know if people believe me or not. I always say this. I don't expect anybody to change their mind in an instant ever in a debate. I don't. But when I hear things, I do reconsider them over the next few days. Like I make time in the day where I sit and I think about things. It'll either be when I'm downstairs, like I will think about things that I've heard that I feel like they haven't fully settled yet. I had an argument with Pisco, and I pretty virulently attacked this idea, or I rejected this idea, because I think it was Pisco that told me, he was like, the Republicans will never confirm someone again. And I think my argument against it was like, listen, like I'm sure they did it in the last year, but there's no way for 4 years. You're saying that if Kamala gets elected and somebody steps down immediately, you think Republicans will hold it up for 4 years? You think they won't appoint or they won't approve a Supreme Court justice? And I was pretty adamant that could never happen. But I just thought about that more over the next couple days, and maybe it's because I'm so steeped in all the January 6th stuff. I actually don't know. If Donald Trump were to put out the call, and it's also one thing that I never realized as much as well, and again, especially going over this J6 stuff, now I see the patterns way more clearly. Donald Trump is very much a dictator in terms of how he runs his party, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're not doing what Donald Trump wants, he always reminds people when they were elected, because of him, I helped you. What a schmuck I was. Probably this Brian Kemp loser, right? We helped you. He always reminds people that if you backstab him, you're gone, right? The voters are going to remember in 2022. They'll remember who wasn't loyal to us. They'll remember who didn't help. If you do end up backstabbing him, your political career in the Republican Party is gone, right? My parents think, I don't know if this is the broad opinion, but my parents think McCarthy is a rhino. Is that normal for most Republicans now?
So what's funny is he's pretty loyal to Trump, especially now that he's out of power. He's fundraising for Trump and everything. But yeah, he was seen as a rhino.
Yeah, McCarthy. Would you have imagined that?
Kicked out.
Would you have imagined that a few years ago, before the whole House fiasco, that McCarthy would be a rhino?
No, he bent the knee to him. He was. You could make the argument, Stephen, that if there's any single person. If there is one person who is singularly responsible for Donald Trump's political rehabilitation, you could make the argument that it was Kevin McCarthy going down to Mar-a-Lago after January 6th and basically bringing elected establishment Republicans back into the fold. Mm-hmm. You could make that argument. That's how loyal he was.
Yeah, so I mean, he really does run this shit like a dictatorship. Like if you backstab him, or I say backstab him, what I really mean is if you oppose any part of anything he says ever. That's true of his party. It's also true of the media apparatus. Remember, Fox News did the Dominion lies because they were so scared because Trump was attacking them. Remember, Trump lost his fucking mind after that Arizona call. And Donald Trump was starting to make all these other appearances on other media networks because he thought that Fox News were traitors. And remember, we've seen this on Twitter, on X, within the past month, I think, right? When a bad poll comes out, what does Donald Trump do? He comes out, and I think it was a Fox News poll, wasn't it? Where he says like, they do fake polling now, or it's not trustworthy. So you're in this state where you're constantly beholden to this guy in a way that even Republicans have never done in the past that I've been aware of. And it's insane the way that he runs stuff. So as I start to think about that more, and then I revisit the argument I had with Pisco, would Republicans stop Democrats from ever nominating or appointing another Supreme Court justice? I don't think so. But if Donald Trump told them not to, they absolutely wouldn't, if Donald Trump was still popular in the party. So I think that's the thing that started to shift my mind a lot. And reading the Supreme Court case opinions, especially on the Colorado thing, especially on the immunity thing, and then seeing how fucked the composition of the Supreme Court is now, and for who knows how many years, another what, 2 decades? When are we supposed to?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, is going to be this conservative of a court. So yeah, fuck that, and fuck me, and fuck the Supreme Court right now. Yeah, it's really
Well,
bad.
yeah, like I said, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth because I think that you have the right of it. But I was curious to see what like exactly the tipping point was. For me,
Oh wait,
listening to. Go ahead.
write that
Sorry.
down and remember that. I want to respond to something real quick in chat.
Yeah, go
Somebody
ahead.
said this, and I'm so glad you said this. Okay, good job. You're becoming norm pilled. Aaron Dallin said, "What kind of president has key head media figures on speed dial and will directly call any government worker he wants to manipulate?" Yes, that is so strange, very queer, very unprofessional, very norm shattering, and very just, yeah, that should make you wonder, like, is it normal? Like, did Barack Obama call in to MSNBC to complain about Bush or McConnell? Like, was that just like an ordinary thing? Or was Barack Obama calling states saying like, hey, why haven't you guys, I don't even know what the deal would have been back then. Like, yeah, it's very, very, very weird, very strange, very not good. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, well, also, again, I don't know if we talked about this, but let's set aside Trump's lingering influence, his direct tyrannical influence on party politics, even when he's out of power. I mean, when he says shit, he's implied it multiple times that he's violated the Logan Act by having conversations with foreign dignitaries and stuff like that. And I think I even asked you, like, what the FBI you think would be looking at, to potentially investigate, if it would need to be more than a couple of statements or whatever. But yeah, like he gives the impression that he's way too involved in the internal mechanisms of governance. I understand that he's still running for office and everything, but yeah, to your point, it's like he has not loosened his grip at all. For me, I listening to people like Jamie Raskin and Sheldon Whitehouse, who are one's a Democratic senator and the other one's a Democratic congressman, you should definitely, if you ever get, I mean, you've seen Raskin because he's part of the January 6th select committee, so you've read.
Oh,
a lot
I
of
have
his
the
shit.
guy with the hair.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
No, he's really, really good. He's a constitutional scholar, and he was the one who he wrote this op-ed. I think it was in the Washington Post back in 2019. And I didn't read it until a few years ago, but it was basically debunking the myth of like 3 equal branches. He's like, we don't have 3 equal branches. We have 3 separate branches who are all powerful, or who are each powerful, I should say. And there's checks and balances generating from all of them. But he's like, the branches were never conceived to be equal. There was a top-down order in some respects. Congress was always meant to be the most powerful, the president the second most powerful, and the Supreme Court the least powerful one. When you and I did our segment earlier today, and I mentioned that Justice Jackson was interviewed by CNN, she also mentions this in the interview. She's like, the court is meant to be the least dangerous of the branches. It's supposed to be the least active, the least dangerous, the least influential in a lot of respects, like a bit of a brake check, but not something that can just grind the entire government to a halt.
Sure. Although I will say that I don't like the term like powerful, because it's like, there's so many different ways you can measure that.
Sure.
Like, what do you think is more powerful? Like, if I were to ask you, like, what's more powerful? A car that can go 0 to 60 in 1 second, but it gets like 5 miles per gallon, versus like a car that can go 0 to 60 in like 1.2 seconds, but it gets like 100 miles per gallon. Like, well, in terms of raw power, like the faster 0 to 60 is probably faster, but like, damn, it says a lot for how different, the fuel consumption is between the two vehicles. Like, the Supreme Court has less power than the Congress, but the Congress needs so much to get itself off the ground, and the Supreme Court could theoretically, wave a magic wand and do some crazy shit in government. So
No.
I like, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's a great point. I mean, like, power is measured differently. So, like, Pisco and I have this on our weekly podcast. We fight on this all the time, because there's no doubt that the executive, I would say, in most, like, in terms of like day-to-day operations, there's no question that the executive branch is by far the most dangerous and by far the most powerful, because, to your point, Congress has to divide its power between 535 voting members, 100 in the Senate, 435 in the House. And in order to get any shit done, they actually have to go through the president, right, who either signs it into law or vetoes it, and then it has to go through supermajorities to override the veto, right? So to your point, it's like, it's so unwieldy, which is why so many legislatures across the world are actually unicameral instead of bicameral. However, the president, all executive power is vested in one person. And yes, it's delegated to, tens of thousands of bureaucrats and operatives and stuff like that. But it's much easier for the executive to wield power than the legislature or the judiciary. So take your point, but
I also
when I interviewed when I interviewed
yeah.
Sheldon Whitehouse, like my thing was like, you know, effectively in the system as we currently understand it, the court can strike down executive orders with judicial review. They can strike down federal statutes with judicial review. And the court has also either been structured or relies on people believing it's structured as to basically remove itself from checks and balances. What I mean by that is, so think about it. They can strike down what the president does. They can strike down what Congress does. And at the same time they do that, they're also saying, hey, you can't even impose an ethics requirement on us. So it's almost the way I told Sheldon Whitehouse is it's like, if you can tell me what to do, but I can't tell you what to do, are we equals, or is one of us really the boss of the other? And so that's what I mean by power. Like the way we currently look at the court, we give it such deference that for all practical purposes, what can the president do to check the court under our current system in your mind? I can't think of a single fucking thing.
Well, I mean, it really depends on how you say this, right? Because technically, the president could just not do what the court says, right?
But you would see that as not. I imagine, maybe I'm wrong, maybe because that's happened before. President Lincoln famously defied the Supreme Court, or at least Supreme Court justice, when he suspended writ of habeas corpus. Supreme Court justice, I think it was Taney, was like, "Hey, you can't arrest this person."
That wasn't, and the court or whatever didn't pass that was still technically done through all the proper stuff, right? Or am I wrong on that?
So Lincoln eventually got Congress's support to suspend habeas corpus, but he didn't have it at the time that he did it, and then ignored the court. So he did it, ignored the court when the court told him no, then he got Congress to back him up, and the court kind of backed off. But to your point, like, yeah, it's true that the president doesn't have to listen to the court, but presumably you would not consider that so much a check and balance as it is the president behaving unconstitutionally, right? Like the president...
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would assume you'd be saying the president can't or shouldn't just ignore the court.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, to me, this can't work this way. It's like we can't have one branch dispense checks and balances to the other two branches and not be checked in turn, which is why I don't know where I stand on the president ignoring the court. I feel like that's the only check they meaningfully have against is just to sometimes say, break glass in case of emergency.
I
guess you could prosecute them.
There's two things going on. Technically, this gets really theory civics filled, or civics into. They appoint, so the nomination comes from the president, and the appointment is confirmed by the Senate. Is arguably one form of a check, and then the other check is that I think impeachment can start in the Senate for a Supreme Court justice.
So it starts in the House, and then the Senate. Yeah. So, but I take your point. That's one check, but that's from Congress. I was asking.
Well, I was just saying. So that's that's a form of check, but technically, I think in a perfect world, I don't know if I'm incorrect on this. I think in a perfect world, you don't actually ever want there to be a check on the Supreme Court from either of the other two branches of government, because the Supreme Court is only supposed to be there for interpretation and like law review. They're not supposed to be doing things to pass a check and balance on like the executive or on the legislature. They're just supposed to make sure that they're comporting with like the words of the Constitution for the legislature, and then for the executive comporting with the acts from the legislature, technically, right, and the Constitution.
Yeah, but I mean, they are supposed to be. I mean, maybe the checks and balances are supposed to be more frequent or more frequently applied coming from some branches against other branches. But I'm sure you would agree that the founders did not intend for the court to be an uncheckable branch. So
they didn't intend for them to be uncheckable, but they did want them to have a lot of independence, right? The lifetime
right,
appointment
but also
is a really big deal.
No, I take your point, but also be by far the least active and the least dangerous, right? That's the thing. That's the thing that I get so frustrated. And I'm not saying with you, but like with people who defend like Lactoid. I'm going to pick on Lactoid. Here's the third person I'm going to call out.
You can pick on him. He's a horrendous person, terrible human being, bad actor. Yes.
Yeah, and so-called principled nonpartisan, when in fact he's just really happy about this configuration of the court. That's really all it is. With all due respect to him, the thing that frustrates me, it's like I can't wrap my head around the court as conceived by conservatives in the moment, because what it sounds like to me is they're like, okay, yes, it is an anti-democratic institution. Yes, it's an anti-majoritarian institution. Yes, they should serve for life. I have people in my replies, and people I see, I'm sure some of the conservative lawyers that you argue with, not just Lactoid, but Good Logic and others, think that, a code of conduct would be compromising judicial independence. Basically, they should have no checks against them whatsoever. And the founders intended for them to be this uncheckable branch that can tell the other branches what to do, and we just have to trust that they're going to do the right thing. The Democrat in me, the lowercase d Democrat in me, I can't abide that. It's like the founders, to be really reductive, the founders were like, okay, you get to be independent. The trade-off is you fuck off. 99.999999% of governance has to be done by the other two branches. You fuck off. You're the weakest. You're the frail. It should give you a goddamn panic attack at the thought of interfering with Congress or the president. You should, if a Supreme Court justice wants to defy the president, you should be on the verge of an aneurysm.
Sure.
That's the trade-off.
I think the scary part is, I think the issue is I think that we've had like a historic failure of the American people to support the legislature. And when the legislature can't act and we need action, then what happens is the executive and the court steps in to fulfill the deficits of the legislature, right? What are we going to do about, immigrants of children or children of immigrants that are here? Fuck. Well, the legislature can't figure anything out. Well, what the fuck are we? Okay, DACA. All right, boom. Okay, DACA, at least from my very brief understanding of it, is quite improper. That the president of the United States is using what is a very small amount of allotted kind of like temporary refugee or asylum seeker or whatever assistance to basically create a class of citizens that are now protected from immigration and customs enforcement. It's kind of bizarre. The president probably should. DACA feels bad to me in terms of powers of what should be in the government, right?
Right. Or even if you agree with the end, you recognize that the mechanism by which the end is achieved is at best constitutionally dubious.
Yeah, and then same thing with, unfortunately, it feels like a lot of the social progress that we've made has come from the Supreme Court. I really don't like the idea that we got gay marriage from the Supreme Court, that we got abortion.
It's Obergefell in 2015. Now, I will say that is actually reinforced by federal statute now because in 2022, they passed the Freedom for Marriage Act or Respect for Marriage Act, which basically codified Obergefell protections. But that was basically 7 years later to the point.
But I mean, same thing with Roe and Casey for abortion. And I think there was one other big thing that came from the Supreme Court. But I mean, obviously the Brown v. Board was obviously, but I think there was a more recent example, but I can't think of it. But when you're starting to get so many massive and huge important things from the executive and from the judicial, you're necessarily increasing their importance and their power. And now it's like, okay, well, fuck, now we have a really powerful court that wasn't supposed to be this powerful, but because our Congress is unable to do anything, and we look to the court for so much, like in terms of protections, like, yeah, what the fuck, Yeah.
Well, you also gave her, bringing us full circle, you gave a really good example earlier when you pointed out that Afghanistan wasn't declared, right? That was right. Like that is a principle. You could make the argument that maybe, certainly top 5 most important powers is the power and responsibility of Congress to declare war, but they have deferred so much of not just war management powers, but like war declaration, war initiating powers to the president. And so, I take your point. I don't know. Like I have such an allergy at this point to the presumption of the Supreme Court. Like when you have Alito, set the flag shit aside. You have the ethics things with Clarence Thomas, like more than $1 million in undeclared gifts. Like the lack of disclosure, the lack of just honoring the spirit. Like we leave so much to good faith, and I guess that's the broader problem. So much of our system is deferential to good faith, and I understand you can never totally exercise it.
I was going to say, initially, I felt like that was so stupid. Like, when we looked at the nuclear option, we looked at the Supreme Court stuff, I'm like, how dumb is it that so much of this government relies on people to just behave well? Like, shouldn't some of this stuff be, like, codified in terms of at least Senate rules, if not, statutorily or constitutionally? But then the more I thought about it, it's like you just said it kind of, and we both agree. You can't actually make a system that can defy bad actors. It's not possible. Everybody in the system is a bad actor. You can't possibly create a system to contain those people. And the question is how far does the system need to go? Because if you're thinking of, like, was there a system that could have stopped Trump from doing the things that he wanted to do, or could have stopped a corrupt Congress or whatever from doing what they want to do. Because when I look at the Trump stuff, and I think I've said this exact line to you, and I'm saying it more and more. I've said so many times, I'm surprised at how strong our government is. We have like really good guardrails, all this bullshit. And not that what I just said, that's not fucking true. It had nothing. It had a little bit to do with the guardrails and had a little bit to do with our system. But truly what it had to do with was a lot of really good people that were in this system involved from top to bottom. People who stand for a different version of America than I would ever see, but we're still fundamentally, answering their call at the end of the day to be good American citizens, whether we're talking about Pence, whether we're talking about Barr, whether we're talking about all of the lawyers in the White House, the Hirschmans, the Shorts, all these people, like all of these people were doing the right thing, not because some institutional protection existed that told them they had to, but because they believe ideologically in some version of America that they were willing to, stick their neck out and defend. And I don't think you could create a system to enforce those protections because you can always find ways around that system,
Yeah, no, I mean, it is interesting to really contemplate these things because, like, a good example, in my opinion, of one that really is unusual to me, like how cohesive it is. Not that it doesn't have its problems, but I mean, look at the United Kingdom, look at the UK. Mm-hmm. They're a constitutional monarchy, right? So, but their constitution isn't codified the way ours is. I mean, they have a body of law and tradition, but it's like scattered in like 3 or 4 different buckets. They don't have a single written document, and they still have a monarch who is technically sovereign, right? Like the King Charles is above the law. Now, if he did something particularly egregious, I'm sure the Parliament would nip that in the bud. But
sure.
Just to say real quick, and yet they seem to have their shit together in ways that the United States doesn't, with a codified constitution, checks and balances, a guy who is chief executive but not sovereign. And to me, that's kind of interesting to think about. Like, they had their issues with right-wing populist Boris Johnson or whatever, but Boris Johnson on his worst day was better than Trump on his best day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's interesting to me that you would think on paper that they'd be more fucked up or have the potential to be more fucked up than we are, and yet they're more cohered.
Yeah, I think you could say properly, like, it's de jure, it's a constitutional, or it's a monarchical, what is it, monarchical republic, or what the fuck do you call it? The constitutional monarchy? De jure, like on paper, they are that, but de facto, like in practice, the monarchy is defunct, right? Because I think most people agree that the second the monarch defies, because I think that the king or queen still has to sign everything into legislation, but if they were to refuse, it would be the end of the monarchy, right? They would be overthrown that day.
Right. There would be a Republican government. I mean, the calls for Republicanizing the UK have like really increased since Queen Elizabeth died anyway. So I think they're on borrowed time really anyway, since she's gone.
What's up, boys?
I'm sorry, you were saying.
Hey, what's up, loser? Oh, also one quick thing before Hutch derails us, because I know he wants to talk about COD. No, I'm just kidding. One thing too that I noticed that was interesting. I'm sketching out this video now that I've got all my clips and everything. So I just, in terms of like what I want the flowchart to look like. One thing I noticed that was really funny with all the conservative theories of law stuff is conservatives had like 3 different huge ways that they wanted to flip the J6, the certification stuff, and all of them rely on these very esoteric theories of like authoritarian power. For Trump, it was this idea of like the unitary executive theory, right? That that basically, as the president, he can step into the role of any single person in the executive branch at any point in time that he wants to and do anything he wants for whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's always right. For the state legislatures, I was really hoping, maybe you can correct me real quick if I'm wrong, I thought that there was some crazy constitutional, like legal theory about the state legislature theory. But I think it's actually as basic bitch and fucking retarded as in the Constitution, in like 2 lines, it says the state legislatures, and some insanely schizophrenic Republicans have interpreted that to mean, oh my God, the state legislatures could do this in defiance of their governors and their state constitutions and their state courts, right? Just because so that's fucking retarded.
Are you talking about independent state legislature theory?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there was that interpretation. So you have the unitary executive idea, which is fucking retarded and unconstitutional and not supported by any credible legal scholar, at least not the field. You've got the independent state legislature idea, which is comically fucking retarded. And then you had this third idea, which was, you know how Pence was supposed to defy the ECA because of the 12th Amendment. The idea that the executive branch could just start making constitutional theories up about how they want to defy rules from Congress in order to entrench their power as well. All of these things are powered by these different quasi-authoritarian theories for how to like run the government, and none of these things were like broadly supported by basically anybody, which I just thought was funny and stupid. But
yeah,
go ahead.
No, the independent state legislature theory, in my opinion, I don't want to say it's the weakest one. It may be first or second. I think unitary executive theory is interesting to me because there are like two versions of it. You have strong unitary executive theory and weak unitary executive theory. I've read a lot of constitutional scholars who are like, weak unitary executive theory makes sense. This idea that the president's obviously supposed to be the most powerful and the pinnacle of the executive branch and have broad plenary power, like, you know, but that it's not totally uncheckable. The Congress is supposed to be able to intrude on executive branch duties. They're supposed to be able to, you know, you have Senate confirmation of executive branch officials, so that's a check of the legislature interfering, quote unquote, with the executive. And even like right now, so under current federal law, and maybe the Supreme Court would decide differently, but like special counsels, like the president doesn't, it's not recognized that the president has the power to fire a special counsel. Mm-hmm. They have to order the attorney general to fire the special counsel. Like it's strange where, you know, we talk about how all of their power derives from the president, right? Which is true, but there's supposed to be like certain carve outs. So I think we all buy into unitary executive theory, just the weak version where it's like there are asterisks there. There's room for Congress and the courts to intervene. Independent state legislature theory is just bullshit. And I don't know if it's, I still feel that the vice president violating the ECA, I think that's probably the weakest of the three theories, but maybe you disagree. Maybe you think independent state legislature theory is more ridiculous, but
sure. What do you want, Hutch?
I don't know why Josiah invited me. This is a boring conversation.
What the fuck, man? Listen, we're philosophizing. We're philosophizing about government. Destiny and I are world building. How we design a government from top down or bottom up to fix the problems here.
I'm supposed to debate somebody tomorrow about who's the bigger threat to democracy, Republicans or Democrats. And I was just thinking today that, isn't it funny that in the last 8 years, Republicans have been making a point to say that we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic?
Don't even bring that shit around here. Hold on. Can you tell me if you agree?
What do you mean by
threat
to democracy?
Is it the case? I want this not to be the case. And then Connor fucking repeated it in a conversation. Is it the case that Republicans say we're not a democracy, we're a republic, because democracy sounds like Democrat and republic sounds like Republican?
I think it's because of the Electoral College losses. I think that's their cope. I don't know. I think it's for a few reasons. Why do you think they say it?
I think it is because of what I just said. I think it's because democracy sounds like Democrat and republic sounds like Republican. So they think we're not a democracy, we're a republic.
It's both.
Maybe.
So
because the Electoral College has nothing to do with a republic, really, right? Does it?
Well, no, it's just when he lost the popular vote, that was like the big cope in 2016 is, you know, she won the popular vote by 3 million votes. And that's when I noticed them starting to say it more and more. Well, it's like, well, we're not a democracy. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's both. Legion Miller has a really good video essay about like kind of the origins of this cope, and it's both. That there's credible reason to believe that the names, the labels being too similar, like if you keep extolling the virtues of democracy, that just by sheer marketing you're gonna confer more legitimacy to Democrats, the party. But the other thing is the Republicans know that they lack broad popular support, and that they're certainly at the federal level, they need affirmative action in the form of the Electoral College and gerrymandering and stuff like that. It's the idea that, we don't care about popular vote. This country was not built on popular vote or popular majorities. It was about protecting the minority from the tyranny of the majority and that sort of shit. And it's not just, by the way, I don't know if Connor told you this, but it's not just prominent Republicans. You actually have Republican senators. Mike Lee, who used to be a really respected constitutional scholar, before whatever fucking worm died in RFK Jr.'s head was reborn in his. He's the one like really spreading that around. We're not a democracy, we're a republic.
Nice.
Yeah, he tweeted that, and I think it's also a mixture of things where the reason why they call us the Democrat Party is because they don't want to like cede the term democracy to us, and it sounds like rat.
Okay.
Like it's actually like a juvenile kind of a.
I think I grew up listening
thing.
to so much like Michael Savage and like Ann Coulter and Glenn Beck and all. I interchangeably use Democrat and Democratic. I just because it's just out of habit. And I had somebody email me once, I think like 5 years ago, and they were like, "Stop calling them Democrats. That's just a slur." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I had no idea, but I think it actually is. I think you're right on that. Yeah, Democrat is like a
You
slur.
can call somebody a Democrat.
no, yeah, but when you say the Democrat Party or the
Right. Yeah.
So
but I
when
didn't
you
know.
debate whether or not so and so is a threat to democracy, make sure you iron out exactly what the prompt means, and that
me.
it doesn't mean that Trump is literally 100% going to overthrow democracy. Make sure you have that worked out, Hutch. You
I
don't
don't
want
even
to
know why I
repeat.
agreed to this because I feel like we've all probably had this debate like 1,000 times.
Wait,
by
go
now.
over
So
this again. What's your debate and who's it with?
Is this guy named Lactoid? Are you guys familiar with
Oh
him?
God, yeah.
He apparently requested to debate me on Wick's panel, and I was like, oh, okay.
About
but
what?
yeah, the prompt is who is more of a threat to democracy, the Democrats or Republican?
Oh, you honestly. Oh shit. Okay, hold on. Just I wasn't joking. You need to 100% clarify what that is beforehand, because we had debates with people that were some of the most retarded motherfuckers in the world. Wait, you were in that debate?
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was on your.
Don't forget the crucial lessons of that.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, you were in that debate. Okay, yeah, you need. Yeah, so then you need to iron out that. Yeah, holy fuck. Oh my god, that was fucking AIDS.
What was their wiggle room again? I forgot.
Wiggle room. They were just saying threat to democracy means that Donald Trump is going to come in and absolutely you have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's going to destroy democracy in a way that it can never come back. Because remember, when I asked Sean in that panel, wait a second. So using this definition, then the Civil War, was that a threat to democracy? Sean was like, well, that's a good question. I have to think about that. So that means that whatever you're going to prove, you have to prove that Donald Trump's going to do worse than the fucking Civil War. Okay?
Right.
But,
Yeah. The Andrew Wilson tact.
Yeah.
So, boys, you feeling more confident about this election now? I'm filled with hope for the first time. I predicted that Kamala was going to beat his ass. I'm usually the one saying the sky is falling, we're going to die. I'm feeling a resurgent sense of optimism. I'm feeling good. How do you two feel?
We've had some really good polls, some really good high quality pollsters too. So Yahoo has Harris +4, Times YouGov Harris +4, TIPP Harris +4, Data for Progress Harris +4, Reuters Harris +5, and that's just been in the last 3 days.
Sure. I don't think I care at all about the national polling though, right? We're on to the 5 to 7 states or the 6 or 7 states is what we're really talking about, right?
Right?
Yeah, those are Wisconsin and Michigan are her most comfortable leads. Pennsylvania's within a point, North Carolina's within a point, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona. But
Hey, did you see that Trump's campaign guy, Chris LaCivita, is apparently he's publicly panicking that Colin Allred's going to beat Cruz in Texas?
No. Wait, what? When did
I'll
this
send you the
happen?
link. I'll send you the link. But he's like Texas is a shit show. I know who's responsible. We need to get competent professionals to take over Ted Cruz's campaign. He seems panicked that Allred's going to beat Cruz in Texas. Wouldn't that be fucking great?
Well,
Wait.
right now the MAGA cope is that they fully expect the
Wow,
polling
Lawson.
error to
If
be
Lactoid
in
wants,
Trump's favor, like it was in 2016.
If
and
Lactoid wants
2020.
perms, they can always have perms.
But there's no
sure.
reason to assume that trend is going to continue. I mean, the polling error was in Obama's favor in 2012. These things shift around, and all the pollsters have shifted their methodology since 2020, and they've been underselling Democrats consistently for 2 years. So I feel really good. I mean, it would not shock me if she won all 7 swing states. I don't know if that's cope, but
Oof.
All right, calm the fuck down. I'm not going to go that far, but I'm sorry.
We're
I mean,
going
like-
after. You remember in it was in 2020 when Sargon and friends were like, the election is fucking over because Donald Trump won Florida and Texas. Do you remember that?
no.
You know, right? There was some huge, like, I don't want to call it code, but there was some crazy polls that came out for, I think it was for Florida and Texas, and people were saying like, oh my God, like Biden might win, Florida and Texas is so crazy or whatever. And then when those 2 states like ended up being obviously in Trump's favor, people were already celebrating, Republicans were already celebrating, and it was like, Biden has no fucking chance. Like it's fucking, okay, never mind. This is just my online crazy people.
No, I can do you one better. You got to remember the 50-state landslide from
Tim Pool.
from Tim Pool.
Who's the Barstool guy again? What's that guy's name again? Portnoy?
Mike Portnoy. I think?
Portnoy came out
Or
with
Dave.
he came out with a video, I think that night, doing a premature victory lap, and it's like one of the most chef's kiss videos of all time, because he's just like, liberals, he won, you just got to get over it, we got to unite now, and it was great.
Yeah, I feel much better. I mean, obviously, with all the institutional advantages, I'm not saying that he can't win. Clearly, he can win. But if you held a gun to my head and forced me to bet, I would say she wins. But it could also be it could also be like me thinking to myself, there's no fucking way after all this that we would elect that asshole back. But I don't know.
Never mind. I forgot.
So, Steven, you haven't said if you feel better or not. Hutch and I are feeling better. Do you feel better? Are you still?
Oh, they were gonna win. I don't know. Who knows? Anything could happen. Yeah. I think we're gonna win, but yeah, we'll see.
You got a lot of trust issues at this point with the American people, the American electorate.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I mean, the American electorate has a lot of trust issues right now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
they're pretty crazy.
I feel like a lot of people have PTSD from 2016, how close it was in 2020, and they just refuse to believe that she's ahead. And I think it's entirely possible that she's going to win by larger margins than the polls are currently projecting, given the current trends of underselling Democrats. And we're going to look back on the stress of she's only up 3 nationally, and she's got this institutional advantage disadvantage with the Electoral College, and it's all just going to look silly.
I just remember what I was going to say. One argument that came up in that Charlie Kirk Jubilee thing that I really like, I'm going to start using this forever, is that the Senate is DEI for conservatives.
Yeah.
That idea,
It's
what you're talking about is,
affirmative
because the national polling and the fact that the Senate exists, it truly is. Like in spirit, it is DEI. The idea that representation matters, representation is important, and that's why in the Senate we equally represent like all 50 states. I like that one. That's a good one.
No, I mean there was one. Hutch, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this stat, but I want to say, was it 2020 or 2021? I don't know if the numbers have changed, but 50 Democrats represented 48 million more people than 50 Republicans in the Senate. Like, that's fucked, man. Mm-hmm. That really is.
No, California alone has 40 million people. So, I mean, and if you take the least populous states in the country, it's like they get like combined fucking 18 or 20 senators, and we get 2. So it's pretty untenable. I feel like it makes the filibuster, like abolishing the filibuster, more or less inevitable. I feel like both parties are talking about it pretty openly at this point, and it's just a matter of who pulls the trigger first. Yeah. And I understand that there's downsides there. I understand that there's volatile swings, but honestly, I feel like that's probably the better option than where we're at now. Because
do we even have a filibuster right now? Technically, like really,
we do.
You don't think that like if it was something meaningful, you don't think we would just go back to the cloture vote and then you would just say fuck it and do what you want to do?
Well, they can do those. They can do those carve outs, right? So, like the great thing about Senate rules is apparently you can just write whatever the fuck you want, and you don't have to abolish the filibuster wholesale. You can make a carve out. You can make an exception for, like, we tried to do it with the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to expand voter registration and voter eligibility and like stuff like that, make it easier to vote. The idea was, okay, we don't have to get rid of the filibuster in every fucking context, but we can vote. Basically, the majority can vote to make an exception for the filibuster on any given piece of legislation.
Yeah,
but Manchin and Sinema wouldn't go for it.
Well, once you do that, though, I feel like Republicans are just going to, at that point, it's just effectively gone. Because, like, if you get rid of it for one piece of legislation or 2 or abortion or whatever, then Republicans maybe the next time around are just going to be like, fuck it. And so,
Steven, are you there yet? Like, I know you're getting a based reformer on the Supreme Court. How do you feel about the filibuster?
I still feel like it's good. I still feel like needing 60 votes is good. I think that I think there should be some form of bipartisanship on bills. It seems crazy to me that you either have to have a 60 vote majority or we have to be able to pass it with 51 votes. Like, I think Biden has shown you can do it, right?
I mean, he's definitely succeeded more than I thought. There's a really good. So when he said maybe Hutch disagreed. Maybe Hutch was always optimistic on this front, but I remember vividly when he became the nominee and he was campaigning and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to work across the aisle," and think, "Motherfucker, do you not remember what they said to your last, like your boss, your former boss? Like they were going to make him a one-term president. They weren't going to work with him on anything. Why the fuck do you think that you'll be any different?" And he proved me wrong. He was able to get a lot done bipartisanly, but I just think the appetite. I mean, it's like he got more done than I expected. Certainly a hell of a lot less done than he expected. And
you think he got less done than he expected?
Oh, sure. I think like. I think that Biden expected to get more done by for example, when they took the majority in the House, I think Biden was under the impression, or at least hoped, that a House Republican majority would still be able to pass legislation with him. But he's basically had a lame duck presidency since January 2023. Thank God.
What makes you say that?
Say what?
What makes you say that Biden had that expectation? Because I feel like he probably knew. Because I mean,
well, based on what he said publicly, that he knows how to work in good faith with Republicans and all the bipartisan successes that we'll be able to work bipartisanly. Even when he said, by the way, that he was going to drop out of the 2024 election, he said, we still have X number of months left in my presidency, and there's still a lot more to be done. It doesn't make any sense to me. Not only did he heavily imply it, but it doesn't make any sense to me that he would tout bipartisan successes. And then the second that they regain control of one chamber, that he expected, okay, fuck, that's the end of that. Because if they're willing to work with him bipartisanly in the minority, I don't see why they wouldn't be in the majority, right? Something changed. We have a bad faith Republican House majority now, and I think Biden recognizes that the time for bipartisanship is over. I mean, I think he is now well aware that there's no bipartisanship left to be had. I think he basically exhausted the last vestiges of it. As long as Trump is the leader of the GOP, why should anyone expect any more bipartisanship? Fuck, they were publicly threatened. The ones who worked with him on the bipartisan infrastructure law, like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump bitched and pissed and moaned because they gave Biden a political win. Look at what happened.
Tucker Carlson reportedly called a senator, I can't remember which one, and said, if you vote for this immigration bill, I will end your career.
Bro, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think what Biden got done was really extraordinary, but I think that's it. As long as Trump is head of this party, I don't think there's any more bipartisanship left to be had. So there's a really good book called Tyranny of the Minority, and it's written by two Harvard political scientists. And I think Steven's on Vyvanse now, so he likes to read. I'll send you a copy. You should definitely check it out because they make a really compelling case that something should be outside the purview of a simple majority. So like constitutional amendments, yeah, that should require a supermajority. Impeachments and stuff like that. Yeah, you want a decisive, overwhelming majority for things. But they make a really compelling case that why should the day-to-day legislation, why should all legislation require supermajorities? And I'm being really reductive here, but they make the case listen, 2 out of 10 things should require a supermajority. 8 out of 10 things, nah. If the majority wins, the majority should be able to have its way. And I think they make a really compelling case for it, as opposed to just leaving it all up to a 60 vote supermajority.
I'm going to leave you boys to your political esoteric.
I'm pretty much done here too. I wanted to pick Steven's brain about the Supreme Court. Now that he's leading a crusade against it, and I'm proud of him.
Have a good weekend, boys.
I love you. Be careful, buddy.
I see you, Hutch. Last question for you, Steven. The stuff that we recorded today and you recorded with Pisco, because I didn't see any of the Pisco and Loner Box stuff from last week. Will you be uploading it onto your main channel, different channel?
Ideally, it gets uploaded immediately. I think August is sleeping. We need to talk about the timetable for that. But it should go on main channel for now. I might start throwing that on. I might make that Bridges content. Because 1, I want to record it in the studio downstairs, and then 2, if it's official political stuff, the Bridges channel is a lot more neat for stuff like that. And then it gives a place to go and look at stuff of mine that's not unhinged or crazy drama. But I don't know. I haven't 100% figured that out yet. But I'll probably do 3 or 4 iterations of this where we iron out the format a bit. Cool. And then I'll try to collect feedback through the autistic fucking rumblings of my retarded fucking community. And then I'll figure out what needs to change, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Perfect. Did you record anything last week when I was out, with Pisco or Loner Box, or did I?
No, because Pisco couldn't make his segment, and you have people dying all around you, so you couldn't make your segment. So it would have just been Loner Box.
It's not death; it's marriage. Okay, this is renewed life. The two shall become one, and all that nonsense. All right, buddy. Well, listen, you enjoy the rest of this panel. It was good chatting with you, and I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, I love you. Be careful.
Love you too, buddy. Bye.
Let me use the restroom real quick. Hold on 1 second.